Back with another book review. Today we doing How to Break Your Addictions from a Person by Howard M. This book was very entertaining. It was dope. It was very educational. And I'm going to give y'all some tools and some tips on how to break your addiction from somebody that you're addicted to. It's Peter back with another book review. Let's get it. All right, so one of the things that he talked about in the book, Break Addiction from a Person, was a thing that he called attachment hunger. And it's basically like a level of you that never been loved as a child, or never been loved when you was younger, or never was abandoned, or not shown anything as a kid. You kind of develop this attachment style. And he called it like a prepubescent idea of love. Like basically, it's a very immature way of thinking about love. You always need somebody attached. Basically, like you need your mother around. If your mother was never there, you try to find a person to replace you in that space, to replace her in that space as an adult. So that's what he called an attachment hunger in his book, How to Break Addiction from a Person, which I thought was an interesting take on it. All right, so one of the things he said in How to Break Addiction from a Person in his book was whenever you break up with somebody, take voice notes and voice memos of all the bad times and stuff that happened so you can remember. Because a lot of times when time go by, and I've done this myself, you start over romanticizing that era or that space, and you start forgetting the bad things. Like, well, it really wasn't that bad. You kind of start forgetting how you feel. But once you listen to them voice memos, you're going to be able to hear the hurt, the pain, the frustration, the sadness, the loneliness, everything that was kind of dismissed. And there'd be a reminder of, let me get back on my shit. Let me stop paying attention. Let me stop being stupid. Let me stop being goofy. And let me focus on what's real. And what's real is you was getting played. You was being neglected. Whatever the case may be. Sometimes we was being delusional. But it kind of puts you right back in a proper perspective of how to look at things instead of over romanticizing a phase or era or a time with a person. Which I thought was a great idea, to be honest. Sound a little petty, but sound like a good idea to me. So in the book, How to Break Attachment to Somebody, in the book, How to Break Addiction from Somebody, one of the realest things he said was to find out if you got an attachment hunger. A primitive attachment hunger is, does your self-esteem or self-worth change whether you're in a relationship or not? He said this is one of the best ways you can tell if you got an attachment hunger, is if as soon as you get in a relationship, you feel so high and mighty, you feel so good. And then when you're single, you feel like you're the worst, you're not worthy of anything, your self-esteem change. And I definitely could understand that because I see that happen so much. And sometimes I be questioning myself like, Peter, you still that guy? Like, relax, Peter, it's okay. And sometimes it's just a natural feeling to want to be with somebody and not want to be alone, but that still should not change your self-worth or your self-esteem based on any particular relationship. That's why we got to work on ourselves when we single, so we can develop that self-esteem, that belief, that understanding of who you really are, and knowing that. So can't nobody rock, shake, or manipulate that in any way, shape, or form. So that was another thing that I thought was dope about this book, How to Break Your Addiction to a Person. Another amazing thing that he said in this book, How to Break Addiction from a Person. He said sometimes we place the power over ourselves in other people's hands, and then we gain resentment when they don't make us happy, when they traumatize us, or they eventually end up abusing that power. But that's one thing that we got to learn to do, is not place the power over ourselves in other people's hands. Because you should always have that power. You should always be in control of yourself. And we should not be 100% dependent on anybody to make us happy, sad, anything like that. So this was another dope thing that I thought was amazing. Like how we place our power of everything into somebody else's hands and expect them to keep us happy, to keep us in a place of joyfulness, keep us in a place of peace, when that's not their responsibility in any way, shape, or form. And I've done it. I'm sure I know a lot of people that have done it, but we got to do better at that. It's just maintaining our power over our own happiness, our own victory, and everything that we're trying to accomplish. You with me? Another thing that he said in How to Break Addiction from a Person is trying to rationalize with a lot of situations and trying to rationalize why people do what they do is one of the biggest mistakes we can make, because a lot of people know what they're doing. A lot of people are trying to take advantage of you. A lot of people know that they hurt you. A lot of people know that you are being vulnerable and trying to take advantage of it. So we need to stop trying to rationalize why people hurt us, why people did something dirty, why people left, why people still not there, why people not putting their best foot forward. We just need to accept it as face value and look at it for what it really is. That sometimes people just don't care. Sometimes people don't want to be with you. Sometimes people are not capable of loving you the way that you need to be loved. And one of the best things I always hear all the time is you be expecting you out of other people, and you're not going to get that. And I hear that a lot, especially for who I am, because if I rock with you, I rock with you all the way. But I can't always expect to get that from people. And I can't always expect for people to be like, think like I think, see how I see it. So that's one thing he said. We need to stop rationalizing as much as people messing up with us or doing things that's kind of messed up. You with me? Another amazing thing that he said in his book, How to Break Addiction from This Person, is being careful of people that use guilt as a tool. Because people that weaponize guilt, either they learned it from a parent or it happened to them, or if your parents weaponize it against you, it could be extremely dangerous and extremely powerful. So you got to be mindful and being careful for people that's trying to guilt trip you into doing things that you don't want to do, or making you feel a certain way, or try to take advantage of you. So anybody using guilt as a power tool, or they weaponizing it, just be very careful and be mindful of those type of people. That was another thing that he said in the book, How to Break Addiction from a Person, which I thought was true, and I thought it was dope, because I've had plenty of experiences with people trying to guilt trip me. Fuck out of here. So this is the last thing that I'm going to talk about in this book, How to Break Addiction from a Person. He talked about going to therapy and how it can really help and reveal a lot of things about people. And just to give you an example of what he was talking about in his book, this one woman was extremely mean and controlling to whoever she dated. And like as they went to therapy and really talked and got underneath all the BS, the doctor realized she was really the villain in the story, because she was being mean and controlling to everybody that she was with, because that was the only way she felt any form of power in a relationship dynamic. That's the only time that she felt like she can control or do anything, because she didn't trust being vulnerable, being honest, being sweet, and being loving. But she was telling her story that as if she was the good guy with everybody she dated, but she really was the villain, because she felt like that was the only way that she had power in a relationship. So a lot of times people may not be malicious intently or knowingly that they're being malicious, or knowing that they're being messed up or doing things that's wrong. They may feel like this is the only way they can get somebody to truly love them or care about them. So that's why it's always good to go to therapy, so you can get different perspectives and different understandings of how people perceive and how people look at things. Because you could be looking at the same thing and see two different equations. And a lot of times that's the reason why we fall apart in a lot of these relationships. So getting in therapy is definitely a great way to break addiction from people. This was a dope book. If you have read it, let me know what you think. This is the book, How to Break Addiction from a Person. If you have read it, let me know what you thought. And if you are struggling with some addiction to a person, definitely check this book out. Definitely go read it, because it really helps you get out of the space that you may be in. But this Pedo, I'm out here.